Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're closing out the work week here on a Friday with 7 games on the slate to choose from. We're coming off a pretty busy Thursday night. Decent time for us. Still finished above 500, right around even units. Kind of a wash, but we'll move on here to Friday with plenty to choose from. Still up about 28 units on the season for everybody, so feeling confident as we stride along here. This is best bets that we have right here for you. Also have play a props up in a different one, so make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Also head to thelines.com. Always going to push you there. Make sure that you check out that odds finder tool. Make sure you're using that to get the best odds and juice available to you in all these bets you're making in the NBA this season. All right, Nate, let's kick off Friday's picks here for best bets.
Yeah, you had a good lean yesterday on OKC to just cover. And then we tinkered around with money line parlays and parlaying it with the Bucks and other stuff. And really, you just felt like fade the Lakers on a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Could have just stuck with it, made that the most confident bet. But yeah, moving on. Look, Spurs at NOLA here. Spurs on a back-to-back. It's probably going to be a blowout. Spread's 12.5. I'll still take Zion to get 25 points in a win, because he's the GOAT of permanent scoring. He's just going to score. Maybe even doesn't even need 25 minutes to score 25 points on average. If you look at his last 2 against these Spurs, 62 points in 61 minutes. It's just a point per minute. There is no line of defense here for the Spurs. Wemby might not be able to play here. I mean, he was very questionable yesterday. Still came through with all the props we needed, though. Bless his heart. But on the back-to-back here, Spurs tend to obviously tread lightly with anybody, even if they're a rookie, and they have any sort of health issues, got the hip issue. So not a lot of rim protection there if Wemby's out. And we saw what Zion's done recently against the Spurs. 29.5 points, 13.5 rebounds, which is strangely high for him, in just 33 minutes per game, his last 4 against them. His last 4 at home this season, looking spry, looking aggressive, 27.5 points on lower usage, 28%, still good usage. His last 6, he's hit 25 points in all of them. And if you're worried about the blowout, again, there is an example, 26 points in a 36-point win over Sac, which I'm not sure if Sac was on short rest in that one or not, but they came to NOLA and they got smacked. And that's probably what's going to happen here. He only needed 30 minutes to get those 26 points. And so the home road splits for Zion. I mean, the Pelicans offense is great at home. He's scoring slightly fewer points per game, but that's mostly because there's just fewer minutes, because blowouts, etc. He is, however, much more efficient. His offensive rating, 10 points better. He's shooting 64% from the field versus 48% on the road. So if you project this over per 36, he's getting 28 points per 36 at home versus 25 on the road, which is to say, if it was a road blowout situation, I'd be very nervous about him getting to 25. But I think at home, he's just going to come out aggressive, attacking these Spurs. A Spurs team that, by the way, given up 136 in their 2 back-to-back situations. And on the road in general, gives up a league-high 31.5 assists and 126. So, the Pels should score in bunches here. And I think as long as Zion gets, 28 to 30 minutes, he should keep this streak going.
Yeah, two solid matchups for Zai in a row, where he just really enjoyed playing against the 76ers, which we called. Now he gets to play against a team that everybody enjoys playing against. It's a really nice get-right game, especially for athletic power forwards, versatile bigs against this team, and really just anybody who's going to be handling the ball, to be honest, which he still should be. We still saw him get a decent amount of assists and really blow up with points with CJ back. And that's a big part of the points for him in this one as well, is like, CJ's back. And the efficiency with CJ on the floor playing point guard is also going to be helpful for Zion to be able to play off of it a bit more, maybe a few more offensive rebounds, especially if Wemby's not in there. I support it. It's like you keep saying, it's one player that you're like, all right, I'm not worried if he plays 30 minutes or slightly less, that he can still get 25, because his PER is out of control, his per 36 out of control. So the efficiency has been there for him, and at home, I still like this game. So I'm going to go ahead and fade my Knickerbockers. I'm taking the -1.5 for the Raptors in a game that they get the Knicks on the second leg of a back-to-back. Knicks had to try a bit harder than I think they expected to beat the Pistons. Kept that within single digits rather. Did the Pistons? Brunson went off for the 42, and obviously he used a lot of energy to do that and really wanted to prove a point. Maybe I don't know if you want to consider a bit of a letdown because this is still somewhat of I won't call it a rivalry anymore, but definitely two teams that are familiar with each other. And Toronto's at home in this one, and that's always a good spot for them. And a couple of things. So I mean, they're at home, 4-1 at home, straight up as home favorites. They do play a bit slower at home, but they still get the fast break points, which is crazy. I just always fascinates me how they do that. Just get out on the break, but then slow it down when you have the ball in the half court. They allow 8 fewer points per game at home as well, which is huge because for them, like I think the defense just leads to the offense for them, and they need to force missed shots. And obviously have a much better defensive field goal percentage at home, the way that they're limiting points in that space. The last 3 versus the Knicks, they've won dating back to last season. And I do think there's really a solid reasoning for the consistency success that Toronto has against the Knicks. They like to fast break. They're not good in the half court, and they're avoiding playing in the half court as much as possible. You don't want to play the Knicks in the half court. One of the best half court defenses, probably the top 3 easy. They have the 4th best defensive rating right now in the league, but in the half court defense, that's where they're the best. They have the number 1 D rating in half court defense. Their transition defense is a little bit more vulnerable, and that's what Toronto does to the tune of a top 10 fast breaking team in efficiency wise as well. The Knicks right now are allowing 13.7 on the season, still in the top 15 for limiting teams on the break, but it's still just not nearly as good as they are in the half court. And so that's what Toronto's going to continue to look to do. And in those 4 games last season, they averaged 18 fast break points per game in those games against the Knicks, which is well above what the Knicks are normally letting teams score on them. The only game that they lost against the Knicks was the one that they failed to score 15 fast break points on. And that's not what I would expect to happen here with some tired Knick legs on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Raptors to just cover -1.5.
Yeah, interesting kind of league-wide trend to look at here, which again, we go back to the in-season tournament and teams going all out to win by 20 plus. And then the immediate afterfall of that, right, is the Knicks struggling to beat the Pistons, who are on a back-to-back? Is the Cavs losing to the Blazers? And another team to target to consider about that is the Suns tonight, who are still, playing their 3rd game in 4 nights after going all out in their last tournament game. So yeah, Knicks now 3rd game, 4 nights, back to back. They're going to need a lot of energy to match Toronto's energy at home. So I like the call here, fading your Knicks, who don't necessarily take care of business when they're underdogs in any way. So Magic and Wizards, second immediate matchup here. 2 nights ago, the Magic just rolled up 139 points, and I got a couple looks at this game here. Not necessarily the -11 spread, though I have no problem if you just want to take that again, because Washington is a tire fire, and the Magic are 8 straight against some really quality opponents. I think you're getting pretty good odds here on just Magic wire to wire. Basically, can they win the first quarter? And then they will continue. I doubt they're going to give up the lead because Washington gets worse as the game progresses. They are an absolutely awful second half and 4th quarter team. But, that's -116. If you want to put half your unit on that, and then also get this juice here for the second quarter, Magic to win the second quarter and the quarter to go over 58.5 gets you +175. So let's say Magic fall behind in the first quarter. You're like, damn, that bet sunk, but you could still come out ahead as long as they come back and score in the second. And they are the number 1 second quarter scoring team in the NBA, 32.2 at home, because they have a really good bench. They are also number 1 in points off the bench at home, 51, and Washington, because they just rotate in Jordan Poole and do, play free and fast, whatever. They're 2nd or 3rd in points per game off the bench on the road. So these teams average in this situation 61 in the second quarter. They got to 65 in the last meeting in a game that got to 259 overall. And Orlando, yes, did lead wire to wire. They had a 5-point lead after the first, 10-point lead at the half. So, I mean, they have advantages all over. We talked about Paolo. He came out and had a dud, turned his ankle, but he's going to go, I guess, again Either way, Franz dropped 30 again. The big wings are a big problem for Washington. Orlando, might have the reputation of being a slow team that you're scared about points being scored. They're actually eighth in pace during this win streak, 101, and they have a 125 offensive rating in their last 5 here. Washington has slowed it down on the road a little bit. Obviously, they had 6 crazy overs to start the year on the road. Since then, I mean, they've just been awful offensively. So, I mean, Orlando, like you called out 2 nights ago, not going to give up what Washington wants to do. So, I that's why I think wire to wire is intact here. I think a young Orlando team is not just going to slip up and let Washington get them here in the rematch. And why I think Orlando is going to continue to score a lot in the second quarter as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it earlier. I'm betting this game, and the only reason I'm not talking about it here is because I just did. But I'll just say, go watch the other episode, and you'll understand exactly why I think Washington is going to get smacked once again, which was verbatim what I said last time. And this time, it's interesting. I would love to see. I don't think you can, but if you could parlay the Magic wire to wire with a first basket prop for if all 5 of the guys on the Magic starting lineup, that would be pretty sick because you need them to score first. But I don't even know if that would allow you to do that.
No. Wire to wire.
I like the bet.
I got to correct you. Quarter by quarter. You do not need them to lead the entire game.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was unclear to me. Okay, because I was even just looking for that bet a minute ago. But okay, no, we're back. Either way, maybe a first basket. Anyway, I don't know. Get crazy with it. But more importantly, I'm going to finish with. I'm not taking the coward's way out. That's not what I'm going to call it. But I am taking a player prop because I prefer it to any of the other sides. So we're on a 3-player prop day for me. But Tatum over 13.5 rebounds and assists. We were looking for how to attack this game, and Joel didn't practice at shoot around today. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's not playing. Obviously, the spread did go up a tick when that announcement came out that he wasn't at shoot around, participating in it anyway. He was there, just wasn't participating in it. And that made it go from 5.5 to 7 right now, which is where it's at for Boston. So that was the biggest impact. But for Tatum's rebounds and assists, I mean, he does this a lot. You called out his rebounds. Well, the rebounds and assists specifically have gone over 11 of his last 13 games versus the 76ers, most of those with JoJo in there. And that includes the playoffs as well, which do what you will with that. I mean, those I still think that's pretty accurate representation of what he does even in the regular season as well. In the last 10 games of this season, he's gone over this prop 8 times, and Kristaps has missed a lot of time over these last 10, including at least roughly 4 games and a few of the 3 of the last 5. So the without Kristaps thing is a little bit of the spacing. Kristaps is not quite as much of a dive to the rim after the pick and roll kind of thing. Although I will give he and Tatum credit. I still think they've been good at avoiding just the easy, lazy, Kristaps pick and pop to the 3-point line. There is some rolling going on. But when Papa Al is in there, and also Sam Hauser out on the wing, even a better 3-point shooter than Kristaps, the assist opportunities go up for Jason Tatum. So the rebounds also obviously go up slightly without Kristaps in there, although they're not really in similar spots to really be vulturing from each other. But more importantly, there's just one less big dude out there. The rebounds don't necessarily go up too much. They stay right around 9 for Tatum without Kristaps because Papa Al is a very good rebounder. But at the same time, like I said, the assists and the floor spacing for Tatum's kickouts and then also dumps down into the dunker spot are much more available with Al Horford and or Sam Hauser on the floor filling those spots. In the last 5 games where Kristaps has played 2 of them, JT's up to 13 rebound chances a game, up just a slight tick, but more importantly, he's up to 11 potential assists a game, which is up from about 8.5 in the prior 8 games to that when Kristaps was playing a little bit more. So, like I said, I mean, it seems weird that such a good scorer and versatile player like Kristaps would actually, his absence helps Tatum in terms of his playmaking ability and his ability to get to the rim as a rebounder on defense and on offense, honestly, because Kristaps is a very good offensive rebounder. Tatum becomes sort of their de facto offensive rebounder as the longest, tallest guy in the front court. Papa Al always going to crash the boards on both sides of the floor, but Tatum is that second offensive rebounder there. So I think that the rebounds and assists have been hitting for him for a good reason against this team, and it's much more of a safe bet when you consider that Tobias Harris has done a good job limiting his points.
Yeah, the rebounds have hit so often against Philly because these games have gone under. But the Embiid factor is huge in terms of that total. I like just playing it this way. Sure, Because yeah, I mean, Papa Al is not actually crashing the glass on offense. He is just sitting around on the 3-point line and getting ready to play defense,
That's
which
true.
is
That's
what,
fair.
kind of heightens these assists. That I also looked at Derek White assists. I'm going to talk about in player props a little bit. 18 assists in the last two without Porzingis. They're just playing even more of that free flowing 5-out style
Mm.
without Porzingis, because Papa Al's just not as versatile. So in that sense, it's really just about the playmaking guards to get in there and start getting the defense in rotation, and that's what Tatum's been doing so well this year. Why he has maybe the best plus minus in the league. Why that Celtics starting five is just on a historic tear, especially at home.
So it doesn't worry you that they seem a little bit more fluid without Kristaps in there, right? Like you still think he was a good pickup for
Oh
them.
yeah, no, and this is not to say like the offense is going to move better. We're just talking about specific stats for specific players who's got to pick up the slack
Cool.
without him because he is such a positive.
Yep. No, that makes sense. That is all the time that we have for you today. Just wanted to test Nate's sort of gumption there when it comes to the Celtics' success this season. Still riding high with one of the best starting fives in the history of the league. This is Best Bets. Also, check out Player Props. We got those up for you. Like and subscribe. Continue to follow along. We'll be back next week with some IST stuff, man, to get going on Monday. So until we see you then, happy betting.